You are the only creature on Earth that does this. Somewhere today, a person you will never meet started to cry. Not from dust, not from an onion, from a feeling, a piece of news, a memory, a wave of something too big to hold. Salt water spilled down their face for no physical reason at all. You have done it too. And you have probably never once asked why your body decided that the correct response to heartbreak is to leak from your eyes. You think you know what crying is, but the real answer is far stranger than sadness. Start with the tears themselves. You make 3 different kinds, and they are not the same fluid. The first kind, basal tears, sit on your eyes all day to keep them from drying out. The second kind, reflex tears, flood in when something irritates you, like wind or a chopped onion. And then there is the third kind, emotional tears, the ones that arrive with grief, or joy, or a song, or relief. For a long time, scientists assumed all 3 were basically the same salty water. They were wrong. In the 1980s, a biochemist named William Frey did something nobody had bothered to do. He collected people's tears and analyzed what was inside them. And he found that emotional tears are chemically different from the tears you cry over an onion. They carry more protein, they carry stress hormones, including the chemicals your body produces under pressure. Frey's striking idea was that crying might be a way of physically flushing those stress chemicals out of the body. That when you weep, you are not just expressing pain. You may be excreting it. Sit with that for a second. Your sadness might have a chemistry, and your tears might be carrying some of it out. But that only deepens the mystery, because if crying were only about clearing chemicals, you could do it alone, in the dark, with no one watching. So why does crying feel so deeply tied to other people? This is where the story turns. The world's leading researcher on human crying is a Dutch psychologist named Ad Vingerhoets at Tilburg University. He has spent decades on a single question, the title of one of his books, Why Only Humans Weep, because that is the strange, stubborn fact at the center of all of this. Many animals make sounds of distress. Many animals have tear ducts that protect the eye. But no other animal, as far as we can tell, produces emotional tears. A grieving elephant does not weep. A frightened dog does not weep. You do. Vingerhoets argues that the answer is not really about the salt water at all. It is about the signal. Picture a human baby. It is born more helpless than almost any animal on the planet. It cannot walk, cannot cling, cannot feed itself, cannot run from danger. For years, its survival depends entirely on convincing larger humans to care for it. And a baby has one powerful tool to do that: the cry. Loud, sharp, impossible to ignore. It pulls a caregiver across the room before they have even decided to move. Now here is the elegant, unsettling part. As you grow up, the loud cry becomes socially dangerous. A screaming adult draws attention from everyone, including enemies and rivals. So evolution, the theory goes, gave you a quieter channel, a way to send the same ancient message, help me, I am in pain, come closer, without making a sound that carries across the valley. Tears. A visual signal of distress that only works at close range, where the people who actually care about you can see it. Crying may be a cry for help that learned how to whisper. And tears do something a scream cannot. They blur your own vision. Think about what that means. When you cry, you partially lower your own guard. Some researchers, including the evolutionary biologist Orrin Hassan, have argued that this is part of the point. Tears can act as a signal of vulnerability and trust. They say, in a language older than words, I am overwhelmed, I am not a threat, I am lowering my defenses in front of you. It is very hard to fake a real cry, and very hard to stay angry at someone who is genuinely weeping. Tears disarm. They pull people in. Have you ever noticed how differently you feel crying alone versus crying in front of someone you trust? That difference is the whole design. Studies of crying find that people most often cry in the presence of one other person, and that the relief crying brings depends heavily on how that person responds. A tear met with comfort feels like release. A tear met with coldness feels like a wound. Because crying was never really meant to be private. It is a social act aimed at another human being, asking to be answered. This is why you cry at things that have nothing to do with pain. You cry at a wedding. You cry when a soldier comes home. You cry when a stranger is unexpectedly kind. In those moments, you are not in danger and you are not sad. You are overwhelmed by connection, by belonging, by the sudden visible proof that humans care for one another. And your body reaches for the oldest tool it has for connection, the one it has used since you were a helpless infant. It calls out. It says, "This matters. Come closer. Feel this with me." There is even a reason it can feel good. That sense of release after a long cry is real for many people, and it is tied partly to what the body does as it calms. A hard cry can shift you out of high alert and into the system that slows your heart and lets you breathe again. The storm passes and the body downshifts. You are not just sad, and then less sad. You are activated, and then, through crying, escorted back toward calm. There is more hidden in that fluid than stress hormones. Your everyday tears are also a defense. They carry an enzyme called lysozyme, which can break apart the walls of bacteria. So every blink washes your eyes with a thin, antibacterial film. Emotional tears seem to carry their own special cargo too. Researchers have reported that they can contain higher levels of certain hormones and even substances related to the body's own painkillers. If that holds, it would mean an emotional tear is not just a signal on the outside. It may be doing quiet chemical work on the inside, part of how the body settles itself after a storm of feeling. It is worth pausing on how unique this really is. We even have a phrase for fake sadness: crocodile tears. It comes from an old legend that crocodiles weep while devouring their prey. Crocodiles do have moisture in their eyes, like most animals, to protect them. What they do not have is grief behind it. That is the line no other species seems to cross. Plenty of animals produce tears to guard the eye. Only you produce them because your heart is breaking, or because something is unbearably beautiful, or because you are simply so relieved you cannot hold it in. No crocodile has ever wept for another creature. You have wept for strangers you will never meet. And how much you cry is not fixed by biology alone. Advingerhoots has run huge international surveys on exactly this across many countries. On average, women report crying more often than men. But here's the revealing part. The size of that gap changes enormously from country to country. In some places it is wide, in others it nearly vanishes. If crying were purely hardwired, the gap would look the same everywhere. It does not, which means a great deal of how and how often you cry is taught. Your culture hands you rules about when tears are allowed, who is permitted to shed them, and what they are supposed to mean. The plumbing is universal. The permission is learned. That cultural layer is also why crying does not always make you feel better, even though we are told it should. The relief is not automatic. Studies find that a cry leaves you feeling better mainly when it is met with support, when someone comforts you, or the situation eases. Cry in front of a person who mocks you, or in a place where you feel ashamed of it, and you can walk away feeling worse than before. This fits the whole theory perfectly. If crying is a signal aimed at other people, then of course its effect depends on how those people answer. A message only heals you when it is received. And ask one more question. Why the eyes? Of all the ways a body could signal distress, why did this one settle on water spilling from your face? Look at where it lands. The eyes are the single most watched part of a human being. When you talk to someone, you read their eyes constantly, searching for what they feel. Tears turn that spotlight into a stage. They catch the light, redden the rims, and make the most scrutinized part of your face visibly, undeniably overcome. They are nearly impossible to fake on command and nearly impossible to hide. If your body wanted to plant a flag of pure emotion somewhere another person could not miss it, there is no better place than the eyes. Crying did not pick a random exit. It picked the one window your whole species is already trained to watch. It aimed straight for the place every other human being is already looking. So look at the whole picture. The chemistry that may flush out stress, traced by William Fry. The signal that only humans send, studied for a lifetime by Ad Vingerhoats. The vulnerability that disarms and bonds, argued by Orrin Hassan. 3 different scientists circling the same astonishing object. A drop of salt water that carries your stress, broadcasts your pain without a sound, and ties you to the people around you all at once. Crying is not a malfunction. It is not weakness leaking out. It is one of the most sophisticated social tools your species ever evolved, running quietly behind your eyes, waiting for the moment a feeling grows too large to keep inside. So the next time your eyes sting and the world goes blurry over something that has no physical cause, remember what you are actually doing. You are doing the one thing no other creature on Earth can do. You are speaking in salt and silence the oldest sentence your body knows. Stay with me. This is too much to carry alone.